Wildcard week has this weird way of starting before the opening kick, and that's exactly where we're at. There's one small detail that quietly reopens the playbook. There's a name being floated that actually fits the future of this pass rush. There's a practice report that looks routine until you read between the lines, and there's a coaching rumor that can mess with locker room chemistry if you let it. And it all runs straight through Foxborough. Bolt fam, hit like. Make sure you're subscribed and drop a comment as we go. This one's going to split people. Be honest. Do you trust this team to handle the biggest moment of the year the right way? Because available and fully yourself are not the same thing. For weeks, the Chargers offense has felt like it was working with a slightly trimmed menu. Nothing dramatic. Just enough that defenses can lean into tendencies. And in January, that's playing with fire. Teams don't just scout you now, they memorize you. If you're stuck operating from one look over and over, you're basically handing the other side the roadmap. That's why this update matters more than it sounds at first. Justin Herbert is taking snaps under center again, not just living in shotgun. And if you're wondering why that matters, think about what it gives Greg Roman. Under center isn't cosmetic. It opens up real play action. It makes linebackers hesitate for a beat, and it creates cleaner throwing windows instead of forcing tight window hero ball every time you need a chunk play. When you're mostly shotgun, you can get predictable fast. Against the Patriots in Foxborough, predictable gets punished. Herbert still showed up on the injury report with his left hand, but the key detail is he was a full participant on Wednesday. That's your sign the offense can operate closer to normal again and stop feeling boxed in. Now, right next to that optimism is the part that makes you pause. Rookie back Omarion Hampton didn't practice because of an ankle issue. And yeah, it matters, not only for carries, but for balance and protection. It's the difference between staying on schedule and living in third and long. If Hampton's limited, you're probably asking more out of Kamani Vidal, and you might be putting more on Herbert's plate in a game where you'd really like to stay ahead of the chains. Herbert under center gives Roman more tools to hide intent. But if Hampton can't go at full speed, defenses can get bolder about hunting Herbert. Playoff football doesn't forgive a quarterback who spends the night under heat, and nobody wants this game turning into survival mode. So while the headline is always going to read the same way, Herbert needs his first playoff win. The deeper story is identity. Are the Chargers going to dictate the rhythm? Or are we going to spend 4 quarters reacting to New England's rhythm in their building? And even with Sunday night right in front of us, the NFL never stops whispering about what's next. An analyst put out a top free agent list and floated the Chargers as a potential landing spot for pass rusher Jalen Phillips, with a projected price around $14 million a year. Nothing is guaranteed with this kind of stuff, but the reason it's catching traction is the fit. Phillips rebuilt momentum late in the year. Injuries slowed him down at points, but after he was traded to Philadelphia at the 2025 deadline, he started flashing that difference-maker profile again. The box score doesn't scream takeover, 2 sacks with the Eagles, but the pressure does. 17 quarterback pressures, tackles for loss, a forced fumble, a recovery. That's impact when the down is biggest. Now look at where the Chargers defense is right now. It's quietly been one of the better units. Top 10 in points allowed, top 5 in yards allowed. Disciplined, organized, hard to break. But every contender is chasing that extra gear. A pass rush that speeds up a quarterback's internal clock and turns comfortable into rushed. This is where the roster math matters. Khalil Mack and Bud Dupree are veterans. Odafe Owe is headed toward free agency with no clear extension chatter. Meanwhile, Tui Polo II just took a massive step. 13 sacks, 6th most in the NFL. Let that sit for a second. If you can line up Tuli on one side and Phillips on the other, that's a young star ascending paired with another high-end rusher in his physical prime trying to lock in his next chapter. That's how you build a defense that travels in January and still scares people next season. And Phillips isn't just speed off the edge. He wins with technique and timing, which fits with a defense that wants to stay sound behind the rush and still get home. If you can generate pressure without selling out, you force mistakes, Bad throws, rushed reads, strip sack chances, especially in the red zone, and on 3rd and long. Of course, it brings up the classic debate. Do you spend on the offensive line, or do you keep stacking the defense? I want that exact argument in the comments, because it's not just about one player, it's about direction. Now back to the immediate, because the first practice report of the week delivered relief with a side of anxiety. Jim Harbaugh laid out participation, and you could practically feel Chargers fans scanning it like a final exam. Start in the trenches. Jamari Salyer practiced, limited with a hamstring. That's big. He's stabilized left tackle, and having him available changes both protection and confidence. Harbaugh even shared the projected line left to right. Salyer, Zion Johnson, Bradley Bozeman, Mekhi Becton, Trey Pipkins III. And remember, those guys sat Week 18 largely for rest. Fresh legs, fresh bodies. In January, that's real value. On the back end, Dante Jackson practicing in a limited capacity is another positive sign. He left the Denver game with an ankle injury, and there was legit worry about his availability. Limited on Wednesday is a lot better than the alternative. It gives Jesse Minter flexibility to disguise coverages and avoid getting forced into something bland and predictable. Then there's Hampton again, no practice, working off to the side with trainers. The detail worth noting is it's not the same ankle that previously put him on IR for about 2 months. That's good in one sense, but it also means his status can stay fluid. He rolled it in the Texans game and finished the 4th quarter, so it's not automatically catastrophic, but playoff workload is different. The hope is he gets some work Thursday or Friday, even if it's limited, because just having him active changes how the Patriots have to account for the backfield. And looping back to where we started, Herbert took snaps under center midweek for the first time since that hand injury against the Raiders. He said the week of rest and fewer hits helped his hand feel better. That's the clearest sign the offense might finally be able to operate closer to full capacity. Keenan Allen and Khalil Mack didn't practice Wednesday, but that's been the normal rest routine for both vets throughout the season. So the honest read? Better than it could have been. Not perfect, not stress-free, but it's not the nightmare list some teams drag into January either. Sometimes winning starts with one simple thing: being available. And availability isn't only physical, it's also about stability in the building. That brings us to the rumor that can mess with chemistry if you let it linger. After John Harbaugh was fired in Baltimore, there's been talk that the Ravens could look toward the Chargers staff for their next head coach, specifically defensive coordinator Jesse Minter. This isn't random. Minter has built a real identity here. Bend, don't break. Few points allowed, few yards allowed, and clear player development. Derwin James has had back-to-back career-level seasons under Minter, including a career high in interceptions this year. Tooley turned into a sack producer while filling the void left by Joey Bosa. That's coaching. That's structure. And the Ravens connection is real, too. The Chargers hired Ravens exec Joe Hortiz as GM, and Minter's ties to the Harbaugh family go way back. He got early opportunities under John, then worked under Jim at Michigan, then followed Jim to the NFL. So yeah, the dots connect. Quick pause, because this is the part that always gets people heated. The personal question for Minter is timing and loyalty. John gave him a start, but Jim brought him along and handed him this platform. Does he keep building with Jim and take a patient path, or does he jump now into the job that could define his career? And from the Chargers' standpoint, even if nothing changes today, you don't want this kind of talk creeping into a playoff week mentally. In January, focus is everything. So here we are. Herbert looks closer to full operation. The backfield has a real question mark. The line is trending healthier. The defense has a possible future vision being floated, and the coordinator who shaped this identity is being tied to another job. That's not just noise. January is demanding an answer. Bolt fam, when you stack all of this together, do you feel like this team is ready to flip the switch and change the narrative? If you believe it, hit like, subscribe, and get into the comments, because this week is going to tell us exactly what this team is.